Eliza stood at the edge of the cliff, her auburn hair whipping wildly in the salty breeze. The vast expanse of the ocean stretched before her, its tumultuous waves crashing against the rocks below. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, allowing the scent of the sea to fill her lungs. This was her sanctuary, her escape from the mundane routine of everyday life. At 35, Eliza had achieved everything society deemed important: a successful career as a marine biologist, a beautiful home overlooking the coast, and financial stability. Yet something was missing, a void that no amount of professional accomplishments could fill. As she opened her eyes, a flash of movement caught her attention. A figure was making its way up the winding path that led to her clifftop haven. Eliza frowned, unused to sharing this secluded spot with anyone else. As the person drew closer, she could make out the broad shoulders and confident stride of a man. He reached the top, slightly out of breath, and their eyes met. Eliza felt a jolt of electricity course through her body. His eyes were the color of the stormy sea, a mesmerizing blend of blue and gray. He smiled, and Eliza found herself smiling back involuntarily. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice deep and rich. "I didn't mean to intrude. I'm new to the area and was exploring. I didn't realize anyone else knew about this spot." Eliza shook her head, finding her voice. "No need to apologize. It's a public trail after all. I'm Eliza." "Jack," he replied, extending his hand. As their palms met, Eliza felt a warmth spread through her arm. "It's beautiful up here," Jack continued, turning to face the ocean. "I can see why you come here." They stood in comfortable silence for a few moments, both lost in the hypnotic rhythm of the waves. Eliza stole glances at Jack, taking in his rugged features and the way the wind tousled his dark hair. "So what brings you to our little coastal town?" Eliza asked, breaking the silence. Jack's expression turned wistful. "A fresh start, I suppose. I needed a change of scenery, a place to clear my head and figure out what's next." There was a story there, Eliza could tell, but she didn't pry. Instead, she found herself sharing her own thoughts. "I know what you mean. Sometimes I come up here wondering the same thing. What's next? Is this all there is?" Jack turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "And have you found any answers?" Eliza laughed softly. "Not yet, but the ocean has a way of putting things into perspective. It makes you realize how small your problems are in the grand scheme of things." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Eliza and Jack talked. They shared stories of their lives, their dreams, and their fears. There was an ease to their conversation, as if they had known each other for years rather than hours. As darkness fell, Jack reluctantly said he should head back. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Eliza. I hope our paths cross again." Eliza watched him descend the path, a mixture of emotions swirling within her. She hadn't felt this alive, this connected to another person, in years. But she reminded herself not to read too much into it. Jack was probably just being friendly, and she had no idea if he was even available. Over the next few weeks, Eliza found herself returning to the cliff more frequently than usual, always with the hope of running into Jack again. But their paths didn't cross, and she began to wonder if their encounter had been nothing more than a fleeting moment of connection. One stormy afternoon, as Eliza was working late in her lab, she received an urgent call. A pod of whales had beached themselves on the shore not far from town. Without hesitation, she grabbed her gear and headed out to assist in the rescue efforts. The scene that greeted her was chaotic. Volunteers were scattered along the beach, working tirelessly to keep the whales wet and calm. The wind howled and rain pelted down, making the already difficult task even more challenging. As Eliza made her way down the beach, coordinating efforts and providing expertise, she spotted a familiar figure. Jack was there, his shirt clinging to his body as he worked alongside others to guide a young whale back into deeper water. Their eyes met across the crowded beach, and for a moment, everything else faded away. Jack's face lit up with recognition, and he gave her a small wave before turning his attention back to the task at hand. Hours passed as they worked tirelessly to save as many whales as possible. The storm raged on, but the determination of the volunteers never wavered. As the last whale was successfully guided back to sea, A cheer went up from the exhausted crowd. Eliza found herself next to Jack, both of them breathless and soaked to the bone. "Fancy meeting you here," she said with a tired smile. Jack grinned back. "I couldn't stay away when I heard there were whales in need, though I have to admit, I was hoping I'd run into you again under slightly less dramatic circumstances." Eliza's heart skipped a beat at his words. "Well, now that we've saved some whales together, I'd say we're practically old friends. How about we get out of this rain and grab a coffee? I know a place nearby that makes a mean cappuccino." Jack's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Lead the way, marine biologist extraordinaire." They made their way to a small cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of town. As they sat across from each other, hands wrapped around steaming mugs, Eliza felt a sense of comfort and excitement she hadn't experienced in years. Their conversation flowed easily, picking up where they had left off on the cliff weeks ago. Jack told her about his past life as a successful corporate lawyer in the city and how a health scare had made him reevaluate everything. "I realized I was living someone else's dream," he explained. "I had the fancy car, the corner office, but I was miserable. So I packed up, moved here, and now I'm trying to figure out what truly makes me happy." Eliza nodded in understanding. It takes courage to make a change like that, to walk away from everything you've known. Jack's eyes met hers, and she felt that now familiar jolt of electricity. "What about you, Eliza? Are you living your dream?" The question caught her off guard. She had always thought she was, but lately doubt had been creeping in. "I love my work," she said slowly. "But sometimes I wonder if there's more, if I'm missing out on something by focusing so much on my career." Jack reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The warmth of his touch sent shivers down her spine. "It's never too late to explore new possibilities," he said softly. As they left the cafe, the storm had passed, leaving behind a fresh, clean scent in the air. They walked along the quiet streets, neither in a hurry to end their time together. "There's a local festival happening this weekend," Eliza found herself saying. "Live music, food stalls, that sort of thing. Would you like to go? Together, I mean." Jack's face broke into a wide smile. "I'd love to." The days leading up to the festival were filled with a nervous excitement for Eliza. She found herself daydreaming about Jack, replaying their conversations in her mind. It had been so long since she had felt this way about someone, and it both thrilled and terrified her. When Saturday arrived, Eliza spent more time than usual getting ready. She chose a flowing sundress that brought out the green in her eyes and left her hair down in soft waves. Jack was waiting for her at the entrance to the festival grounds, looking handsome in a casual button-down shirt and jeans. His face lit up when he saw her, and Eliza felt her heart flutter. They spent the evening exploring the festival, sampling local delicacies, and swaying to the music of various bands. As the sun began to set, Jack took her hand and led her to a quiet spot away from the crowds. "I have a confession to make," he said, his voice low. "I've been coming to that cliff every day since we met, hoping to see you again." Eliza's breath caught in her throat. "You have?" Jack nodded, taking a step closer. "Meeting you that day, it felt like fate. Like everything in my life had been leading me to that moment, to you." Before Eliza could respond, Jack's lips were on hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as years of longing and unfulfilled desires poured out. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "I've wanted to do that since the moment I saw you," Jack whispered, his forehead resting against hers. Eliza smiled, her heart soaring. "What took you so long?" As the weeks passed, Eliza and Jack's relationship blossomed. They spent their days exploring the coastline, Jack accompanying Eliza on her research trips, and their evenings curled up together, talking about everything and nothing. But as their connection deepened, so did Eliza's fears. She had built walls around her heart over the years, protecting herself from the pain of loss and disappointment. Opening herself up to Jack meant risking everything. One evening, as they sat on the cliff watching the sunset, Jack sensed her unease. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. Eliza took a deep breath. "I'm scared, Jack. I'm falling for you, hard and fast, and it terrifies me. What if this doesn't work out? What if I'm not enough? Jack pulled her close, his arms encircling her. Eliza, you are more than enough. You're everything I never knew I needed. I can't promise that everything will be perfect, but I can promise that I'm in this for the long haul. You're worth every risk. His words washed over her like a soothing balm, easing her fears. Eliza realized that sometimes love required a leap of faith, and she was ready to jump. As summer turned to fall, Eliza and Jack's love continued to grow. They faced challenges together, the stress of Eliza's demanding job, Jack's uncertainty about his new career path, but they always came out stronger. One crisp autumn morning, Jack surprised Eliza with a picnic on their cliff. As they sat surrounded by the beauty of nature, Jack took her hands in his. Eliza, meeting you changed everything for me. You showed me what it means to truly live, to follow your passion, to love without reservation. I don't want to spend another day without you by my side. Eliza's eyes widened as Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful ring, a sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. Eliza Marie Thompson, will you marry me? Tears of joy streamed down Eliza's face as she nodded, unable to form words. Jack slipped the ring onto her finger, and they sealed their promise with a kiss that held all the love and hope for their future together. As they sat on the cliff, wrapped in each other's arms, Eliza marveled at how much her life had changed in just a few short months. She had found not only love, but a partner who challenged her, supported her, and made her want to be the best version of herself. The ocean stretched out before them, vast and full of possibilities, much like their life together. Eliza knew there would be storms to weather and challenges to face, but with Jack by her side, she was ready for whatever lay ahead. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Eliza turned to Jack. "Thank you," she said softly. Jack looked at her, a question in his eyes. For what? For showing up on this cliff that day, for taking a chance on love, for being you. Jack smiled, pulling her close. Thank you for letting me in, for being brave enough to open your heart. I love you, Eliza, always and forever. As they made their way down the cliff, hand in hand, Eliza felt a sense of peace and excitement for the future. She had found her home, not in a place, but in a person. And she knew that whatever life threw their way, they would face it together. The coming months were a whirlwind of wedding planning, work commitments, and building a life together. Eliza and Jack decided to renovate Eliza's coastal home, turning it into a space that reflected both of their personalities. As they worked side by side, painting walls and arranging furniture, Eliza found herself falling even deeper in love with Jack. His patience, his sense of humor, the way he always seemed to know exactly what she needed. It all reinforced that she had made the right choice in opening her heart to him. Their wedding day dawned bright and clear, the ocean providing a stunning backdrop for their ceremony. As Eliza walked down the aisle, her eyes locked with Jack's, she felt a sense of coming home. This was where she belonged, with this man who had shown her what true love really meant. As they exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other through all of life's ups and downs, Eliza felt a sense of peace wash over her. The fears and doubts that had plagued her in the beginning of their relationship had faded away, replaced by a deep, unshakable trust in their love. The reception was a joyous celebration, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts from friends and family. As the night wore on, Jack pulled Eliza away from the crowd, leading her down to the beach. They walked hand in hand along the shoreline, the sound of the waves providing a soothing backdrop to their conversation. Jack stopped, turning to face Eliza, his eyes shining with love and excitement. "I have a surprise for you," he said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. Eliza raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Another one? Jack, you've already given me everything I could ever want." Jack smiled, taking both of her hands in his. "Well, this is something I hope will make our lives even more fulfilling. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my career, about what I want to do with my life now that I've left the corporate world behind." Eliza nodded encouragingly, knowing how much Jack had been struggling to find his new path. "I've decided to start a non-profit organization," Jack continued, "one that focuses on ocean conservation and education. I want to use my legal background to fight for better environmental protections and to work alongside passionate scientists like you to make a real difference." Eliza's eyes widened in surprise and delight. "Jack, that's amazing! It's perfect for you. But why is this a surprise for me?" Jack's smile grew wider. "Because I want you to be a part of it. Not just as my wife, but as a partner in this venture. Your expertise, your passion for marine life, it's exactly what this organization needs. Together, we could make a real impact." Eliza felt tears welling up in her eyes. This man, who had already given her so much love and happiness, was now offering her a chance to combine her personal and professional lives in a way she had never imagined possible. "Yes," she whispered, pulling him close. "Yes to all of it. To being your wife, your partner in life and in work, to building something meaningful together." As they sealed their new commitment with a kiss, the waves lapping at their feet, Eliza felt a sense of excitement for the future that she had never experienced before. She and Jack were not just building a life together, but a legacy, one that would hopefully make the world a little bit better. The years that followed were filled with both challenges and triumphs. Eliza and Jack's nonprofit organization grew, gaining recognition for its innovative approaches to ocean conservation. They traveled the world, speaking at conferences, conducting research, and inspiring others to join their cause. Through it all, their love remained strong, deepening with each passing day. They supported each other through late nights of work, celebrated each other's successes, and provided comfort during moments of doubt or disappointment. As they approached their 5th wedding anniversary, Eliza found herself back on the cliff where it all began. Jack stood beside her, his arm wrapped around her waist, as they watched the sun sink into the horizon. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met that day?" Eliza asked, leaning into his embrace. Jack was quiet for a moment, contemplating. "I think we would have found each other eventually," he said finally. "Some things are just meant to be." Eliza smiled, turning to face him. "I'm glad we didn't have to wait any longer than we did. These past 5 years have been the best of my life."